Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this particular tutorial, remember I did a first tutorial on how to draft different types of basic necklines, and I told you that that tutorial is divided into two. So this particular one is the second part of that tutorial. So if you have not watched the first part, do well to click on the link in the comment section. I'm going to pin that so that it will link you back straight to that tutorial, and that is going to help you, okay? Because if you watch how to make those basic tutorials or basic necklines, you're definitely going to understand how to make these other ones. So don't forget to click on the subscribe button, like and share this tutorial, all right? Also click on the notification bell so that whenever I post any new video, you'll be the first to know. So the very first neckline we'll be drafting right here is the Queen Anne neckline. All right, so this is basically almost like the sweetheart neckline with a little twist. Now, to draft a Queen Anne neckline, the very first thing I'm going to do is to mark how deep I want my neck depth to be. So for my neck depth, I want to be using 5 inches, all right? And then for the neck width, I'm going to go in by 4 inches. And just like I did for the sweetheart neckline, I'm going to find the midpoint over here. So I would be going with the same 2.5 inches I used earlier, and that is it. So I'm just going to use a free hand right here to mark my curve to meet up with this point, okay? Your curve can actually come like this. It depends on how you want it to be, okay? So I'm going to just mark my curve the way I want it to be, as so. Now, after doing that, the next thing I am going to do is to determine where I want my twist, okay, where I want the slanted part of the Queen Anne neckline to go to. So at this point, I would just measure about 2 inches, okay? So I want it to be about 2 inches wide. So I would just use my ruler from this point and connect the curves together. It's that simple, okay? If you have questions, please remember to ask them in the comment section. I'm always on my comment section to check if my students do have questions, okay? So basically, this is it for the Queen Anne neckline, okay? So I'm going to cut this out so that you can see the beauty in this neckline. This neckline was actually used by queens, I think Queen of England, something like that, because Queen Anne actually sounds like Queen of England, right? So if you look at those English women's wear, this is basically what they use. So I think that's the reason they called it Queen Anne. So I am going to just go ahead and I will cut it out as so. Okay, so I'm done cutting this out, and this is what a Queen Anne neckline looks like. So the difference is basically clear here. For this particular one, the sweetheart came out straight, but for this particular one, the sweetheart actually came out with a twist, and that is why we call it Queen Anne neckline. So between a Queen Anne neckline and a sweetheart neckline, which do you prefer? I want to see your answer in the comment section, okay? So let's get right into another one. So the next neckline that we're going to be drafting is the keyhole neckline. Now, as the name implies, the keyhole neckline is just a neckline that has a round neck and then some kind of hole in the middle point. Now, this hole can actually be a round hole. This hole can be any shape of your choice. It could be a love hole, it could be square, it could be triangle, it could be whatsoever kind of shape that you choose. All right, so in this particular tutorial, we're going to be drafting a keyhole neckline with a triangular shape. Now, you can actually reconvert this triangular shape to another shape, okay? So we're going to be doing that in this tutorial. Now, let's get into drafting it. I have my pattern paper right here, and I am just going to go ahead to draft this keyhole neckline. Go ahead to use 3 inches, which was my width, and then I would use 2.5 inches, which is my depth, okay? So I have this together, and I would just go ahead and draft my round neckline as so. So after drafting my round neckline like so, The next thing that I would do is very simple. I would just determine, first of all, always determine how your client or how you want it to be. So do you want your keyhole to just be very small? Do you want it to be big? It depends on you, okay? For me, I am going to go down by about 1 inch right here, and I will just maybe add extra 1 inch, so it will be more like 1 inch for both sides, okay? So so I am going to be using my ruler, and I would curve it to meet up with this point as so, and then I would curve it also, draw a line like so as well. So this is what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and I would cut this out like so, okay? So have you seen here? Now I made sure to cut this out so that I wouldn't cut the little piece that is remaining here. I think I told you that you can decide to wrap this off like this and just let this space be here, okay? Or you can decide to pull this out and then fix a button here. It's also the same thing. So any style you want. I could also decide that, okay, I don't want a triangle anymore. Maybe I want mine to look like this, okay? All I need to do is just to determine where this is going to end, pick my ruler or whatever I have at that point, connect it right here, and that is it. Then cut it out. Everything depends on what you want, and everything depends on creativity, okay? So always be creative about the styles that you use. So I have another one right here. It's as simple as possible. If I want a round keyhole, I would use my pencil, make it round, and then trim it out, and it will come out round. So whatever you want to do, just maneuver it, go around it, and come out with what you want, okay? It's actually very simple when you start learning from the basics right here. So I hope you understand this. If you do not understand, ask questions in the comment section. I am always emphasizing on questions because questions make you understand better. So if you've gotten this far, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. This is a boost for me to see that what I am doing is making sense to another person. So click on the subscribe button and leave a comment, leave a like to show that you're interested and I should keep posting. All right. The next neckline on the list is the off-shoulder neckline. As the name implies, this particular neckline is off the shoulder, all right? So it's not like every other neckline that actually starts from the shoulder. No, this one is below the shoulder. So the starting point is going to be down below your shoulder. It could be any low. It depends on how you want it to be, all right? So in this particular one, you see I had already drafted the armpit, all right, the armhole, because I want to start from the shoulder to cut it out. So the very first thing I'm going to determine is how low I want my off-shoulder neckline to be. So I'm going to so because of the pattern paper, right, the fact that it is not big, I'm going to be using 3 inches low. You can decide to use about 5 inches or 6 inches depending on how you want your off shoulder to be. And also know that off shoulders can actually be round, it can be a wrap neck, it can be a sweetheart, anyhow you want it to be, all right? An off shoulder can take different shapes. So we're going to be drafting a round off shoulder, just like the one in the picture right here. So now after determining right here where you want your off shoulder to start from, the next thing I'm going to do is to also measure the same thing on the midpoint, which is 3 inches, and then draft a curve to meet up with this. All right, so I'm going to be measuring about 3 inches, which is what I took, and then I am going to draft my curve. You can decide to measure about 4 inches, depending, about 5 inches, depending on how low you want it to go. Okay, so this is it, and then I'm going to connect it with a curve, and that is all for this particular neckline. Now I can decide to turn it into a sweetheart off shoulder neckline. I can decide to turn it into a square off shoulder. Any choice, anything you want at all, any shape you want, you can always turn your off shoulder to be. And then anyhow you want it to go deep, you can always turn it to be. So an off shoulder is actually very simple Yet very beautiful neckline. So this is a typical off shoulder for a basic or a beginner tailor. And then the 10th on the list is a one corner shoulder. One corner shoulder is basically that shoulder that has a sleeve over here and doesn't have anything over here. Now there are two types of one corner shoulder. You can actually have the one that has a sleeve right here and has a very small strap over here. But for the course of this tutorial, I would be teaching you the first one you saw right here. To cut this out, I am going to turn this open as so. Now this is one of the necklines that you have to cut them out with the opening as so. So I can determine that I actually want this side or this side to be cut out. Of course, for this tutorial, I would be using the left hand side. So to do that, I am just going to go ahead from this midpoint right here. I'm going to place my tape and measure where I want it to be. So I'll be using about 4 inches right here. And then I would mark the depth of my neckline. So the depth of my neckline would actually be at 4 inches. And then I would decide, so that it will be easy for you that is actually learning, okay? I'm trying to make it so easy. I would just go ahead and I would connect this together so for you, okay? So I'm going to connect this and take this to the very end. Now I would from here, from this point, I am going to connect in a round shape to meet up with this point as so, okay? So this is met up with this point, and this is all for the one corner. So I'll just go ahead and I would trim this out. So I basically have my one corner neckline right here. This side has a shoulder, but this side does not have a shoulder, okay? So this is the one corner neckline. If you see a dress that actually has one side overlapping the other like so, either with a V or with a round, that is called an overlap neck dress or a wrap dress. All right, so to draft this particular neckline, I would be using 2 pattern papers. All right, now this is called a wrap dress. That means one pattern paper is going to be on top of the other. All right, so now the very first thing I am going to do is to open up this pattern paper. Now this is one of the necklines that you only draft with the pattern paper or the fabric opened as so. Now from the midpoints, you're going to find the midpoints of your fabric or your pattern paper, and from your midpoints you're going to determine how wide you want your wrap to be. All right, so I'm going to be taking about 4 inches for the width of my neckline, and then from this point right here I am going to mark 1 inch from the midpoint. All right, now remember that I'm going to be stitching on this. I'm going to be stitching my wrap dress on each other, so I need this 1 inch to work it out for me. So from the bottom, I'm going to be marking 1 inch above. All right, so this 1 inch above I'm going to mark. I'm going to connect it right here to meet with the 4 inches I had marked for the neckline, just like you did for the one corner neckline. The wrap neckline is almost like a one corner neckline into 2, all right, where you can put them together and it will form a wrap. Then I would use my ruler right here and I would connect the lines. So basically this is it for the very first part of the wrap neckline. I'm going to cut it out, and after cutting this out, I'm going to use my pattern paper and cut the other one. Now one tip you should understand is when you're cutting this on your fabric, make sure that it is the right side facing each other. If not, you're going to be cutting the same exact thing. All right, so it has to be the opposite side facing each other, and then just go ahead and cut it out. Now when you're done cutting this out, I'm going to pick my pattern paper or the fabric that you're using, place this on the other pattern, place this on the other pattern, and then this is what the neckline looks like. This is absolutely beautiful. This is actually a round wrap neckline, all right? So I decided to curve it, remember. Now, if I wanted it to be V-neck, I would have just made it straight line. So this is basically all for the wrap neckline. In subsequent classes, I would be showing you how to make different advanced kind of necklines that we would use, all right? So this is it for the end of this tutorial for beginners. If you haven't subscribed, please click on the subscribe button, like and share. And also remember to put your comments in the comment section. If there's any tutorial you did not understand, let me know so that I can throw more light at it. See you in the next tutorial. Bye.